Morning world, it's Sunday, it's the 19th of January 2025, and though I'm not going to be talking about the inauguration or Donald Trump, I'll talk about that probably tomorrow or the next day once we've got the actual moment of the inauguration. Before I start on this video today, I've got a request. A number of you, the vast majority of you really like this blue background, some of you don't. I'd like to have the choice. I've never worked with Macs before, and when I bought the Mac, I hit a button and somehow I've got this blue background now on my photo booth app. I've got rid of the app, I've reloaded it, I've done all the necessary upgrades, I've had all my techies look at it. No one can get rid of this blue background for me. I don't want to have to spend money and go to a Mac shop. Any advice on how to get rid of this blue background from my photo booth app would be greatly appreciated. You can get hold of me by email, steve@stevejudd.co. Now, I'm on record as having said that this year, the period of early March 2025 through to late April, early May 2026 is the single biggest game changer in our history, at least since World War II. And in terms of the intensity of the configurations in the heavens, with all of the four outer planets, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune and Pluto, changing sign within a year of each other, and all four of them making aspect to each other, I thought to myself, I've philosophized in the past about the last time this happened, or something as strong as this happened, because this type of configuration has never, ever happened before in recorded human history. This truly is a one-time situation that has never happened and will never happen again. But using the criteria of the intensity of what's going on, I've traced back using my software to the only other time in the last 10,000 years where something of this intensity has happened. And for those of you with astrological software, I've come up with a date, and I value your ideas and opinions. And the date is the 13th of May, 574 BCE, before Common Era, when we have a conjunction of Sun, Mercury, Mars, Jupiter, Uranus, Neptune and Pluto, all within 7 degrees of each other. So every planet in the sky except Venus, the Moon, Venus and Saturn are all conjunct each other. Now, this happened between 13 degrees Taurus to 20 degrees Taurus. So I did some research on this. It was the time of the death of the poet Sappho. It was the time of not the original Olympic Games, but various other games started around this time, which gradually coalesced into the Olympic Games. It was the time of Cyrus the Great in the forming of the Greek Empire and the empires around that time. More importantly, it was around that time, perhaps within 10 years of that time either side, of the birth of Buddha. It was within 2 or 3 years of the birth of Confucius, and it was within 1 or 2 years of the birth of Pythagoras. Pythagoras, Confucius, the Buddha, all born under the auspices of this grand conjunction. So this suggests to me that this was a monumental time. This is 574 BC. So that's 2,450 years ago, 2,451 years ago. Fairly long time. And at that time, some of the greatest figures who have shaped human history were born. Now I suggest that we're heading into a similar, not the same, but similar time, where whilst the idea of leaders are becoming redundant, the idea of thinkers and people who are going to shape the way in which humanity is evolving over the coming 100, 200, 300 years, this is a time where the children being born now, last year, this year, next year, are going to be fundamentally different to any other time. They're going to be born with a new attitude, a new idea, a much more futuristic potential. This is an amazing time. Now, as with all great periods of transition, there are particular key points. And the nearest one is the one that I've mentioned a few times before. I've done quite a bit of stuff on this to my membership, and I will be releasing this into the world over the next week or two. But I'm looking at the period of the 26th, 27th of March through to the 4th, 5th, 6th of April, where we again will have a really big lineup, where we will have Mercury and Venus and Saturn and Neptune and the North Node all together. There will be one day when the moon will be with them, and that will be the 28th of March. And on the 29th of March, there is a partial eclipse of the sun. There is nowhere in the world that will see a total eclipse on that day. The best places to see it will be on a line from Bermuda to Iceland, which will see a 75% solar eclipse. Britain will see a 50% solar eclipse. The further north you are, the more you'll see. And the majority of mainland Europe will see something like a 25% eclipse. By the time you're into the Mediterranean, the tip of Italy, Greece, it is a 0% eclipse. But the sun is not going to be eclipsed. There won't be a need for glasses or anything like that. Nevertheless, it is a solar eclipse. The heat and light of the sun will be partially occluded from the earth at the time of this really big lineup. So to me, this is an incredibly important time. There will be other times later in the year that have not as strong, but strong perspectives on the grand lineups that are happening with the outer planets. It should be noted that in the past, the outer planets were not discovered. So when I talk about this time of 574 BC as being a 7-planet lineup, Sun, Mercury, Mars, Jupiter, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, the ancients would only know of Mercury, Mars, and Jupiter as well as the Sun. So to them it probably wasn't a big deal. The outer planets weren't discovered. And there's a big argument for saying that because they weren't in the knowledge of humanity, therefore they weren't in the consciousness, therefore their effects won't work. But as I recently demonstrated when I talked about the horoscope of Wolfgang Mozart, he was born at a time where the outer planets were not discovered. Yet they play such a strong role in his horoscope that without the outer planets, his horoscope would be, to say normal or standard would be to do the guy a disservice, but would not be 10% as strong as they are when you put the outer planets in. So it's clear from that particular chart anyway that the outer planets, whilst they were not known about or people weren't conscious of them, their effects were still happening, but at a deep, unconscious, intuitive and even instinctual level. Mozart was a genius. And his horoscope shows those capacities. I've not seen that type of horoscope in anyone alive today of prominence. There's no political figures with those trademarks of genius. There's very few innovatives, artists, business people with that. I do see these patterns in the charts of people like you and me, who are bubbling under and doing great work in the community, but deliberately choosing not to aspire to greatness. We live in interesting times. There is a minor correlation to the times of 2,500 years ago. One thing's for sure. The events of this coming year, and probably the next 2.5 months, are going to resonate many, many years into the future. So, people, please, everyone over the next 2.5 months, don't go to extremes. I mean, there's going to be extremes. There's going to be, in the next few days, we're going to see extremes. Don't overreact. This too will pass. Catch you later, world. Bye.